Like,
I'm kind of glad we've moved to a movie that is tethered in real history, the real history of Eternia, and not
Sure.
some bullshit Hollywood movie about France. We're now in real history.
yeah, but the problem is we're no longer on Earth, so I can't inject Connor McLeod facts
I
into this
mean,
movie. Like,
this movie is so poor. How poor is it? This movie is so poor that in the first cut we already arrive on Earth. I mean, it's you get Eternia for one cut, and then you get Eternia at the end of the movie. So
But what is Eternia but a vast desert wasteland where nothing is happening and a
it's
few
just a
scattered
map.
people are
It's a
running
map
about?
painting. It's a map
right.
painting.
Ah, okay.
This is like, you've been good. We can get you some He-Man. Oh, we're going to stop and get He-Man? No, we have He-Man at home.
Oh, this is definitely we have He-Man at home.
By the power of Greyskull.
Well, you guys don't know what music just played, but I do. So a kick-ass intro and deserves a kick-ass intro. Welcome to the Masters of the Universe Sword Boys episodes. I am Jonathan, the picker of the Masters of the Universe.
I am Robin, and I am the watcher of the Masters of the Universe.
The Blorko of our trio, or whatever his name
Yes.
is. Glim, Glim, Glam,
Bling Lab, you know.
Glimdor.
And I'm Rick. I'm the baby of the group. I'm
Aw.
the oddball millennial amongst this group of Gen X kids who are really excited for this movie. And I'm just along for the ride.
Well, what a ride it is.
That's right. We are starting with cut one. It begins at the very beginning of the movie, and it goes until 17 minutes, 33 seconds, starting with Peter Brooks giving us the rundown of this whole He-Man situation, and ending with He-Man and his allies finding themselves far away from Eternia.
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 Well, if you love the toys of He-Man as a kid, this is not the movie for you.
However, if you don't know Masters of the Universe, you might be very confused of what the hell is going on.
Oh yeah, if you it's funny. It's had kind of a resurgence since we the past 3 years with the Kevin Smith He-Man that came out has kind of revitalized this He-Man thing. Well, okay, here's the history for your here's the old history. Let me tell you the tale. One day in 1982, a young Jonathan, how old was I? 8, was walking through I don't know. It wasn't a toy store, but it was like a store. And in the toy aisle, which we all went down, there used to be there still is to a degree at Walgreens. There's still a toy aisle, but it's like shitty toys you buy your kid when you're divorced and you have to go see your kid and you forgot to buy them a present. That kind of toy aisle. Back in the day, it was
Not familiar at all.
back in the day, it was like Star Wars level. Like it was good stuff was in the toy aisle. And so I remember walking down it and seeing this buff dude with a Prince Valiant haircut. And I was like, holy shit, what is this toy? And it was He-Man. He was the first character that came out. And there were like 3 or 4 characters that came out at the time. But this He-Man was not if you're even someone of those kids that also liked the cartoon from the 80s and watched it recently, he wasn't Prince Adam. He didn't have an alter ego. He was just He-Man. He was literally like a Conan character, and he showed up from Mattel, and he was buff. His friends were buff. Everybody was buff. Skeletor was buff. Everybody's buff.
Yeah.
And it was an awesome toy. It was a little bit bigger. It was like twice as bit tall as like the GI Joes of the time and the Star Wars characters, which were all kind of based on a very specific size. And it was awesome. I love my He-Man. I had He-Man, Battle Cat. I had Castle Grayskull. I had none of the women. That's not great. But I had none of the lady toys. So I didn't have Tila. I didn't have well, there were only 2. Tila and the Sorceress. Oh, and Evelyn. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, they had 3 where I think Star Wars had one.
Yes, for until they made the Torin Far character. Yeah, I think they only had one. So yeah, that was my experience. Robin, as another old, what did you remember from it?
Oh yeah, I watched the cartoon religiously. Looking it up, I was surprised it only lasted like 3 years.
Yeah, but they did like 98 episodes back when you did like a trillion episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I definitely had Greyskull. I had He-Man. I don't think I had Battle Cat. I probably had like He-Man, probably like Trapjaw, Stinkor.
Was it Trapjaw or was it Lockjaw?
No, it was Trapjaw.
Okay.
And definitely had Greyskull. Yeah, He-Man was the kind of toy, like, if you really hated your friends, that was a toy you threw at them because he was big and bulky and heavy.
Heavy plastic.
If you're just kind of fooling around, you throw a G.I. Joe at them. You're like, "Ah." But if you're like, I'm going to get blood out, I'm going to throw a He-Man at them.
Well, also, He-Man didn't have a kung fu grip or his knees didn't bend, his arms didn't bend, so he just, if he hit
a swivel hip, I think, maybe?
He swiveled at the hips, and his leg could go akimbo, but when he sat down, it looked like he was like had his legs around. Remember those things you could sit on and sit and spin? I believe was the name of it.
Yeah.
Which has turned into a term of endearment that you tell somebody, you like sit and spin.
Yeah.
But there used to be a toy you could sit on, but your legs on it looked stupid. That's what, when He-Man would sit, he had like 2 vehicles that I remember in the original run, and he would sit him in there. Like you'd have to kind of jam his legs in. Not a great toy. Not a great toy design. I mean, beautiful toy design, but not a great like functional toy design.
But I mean, look at that body. Like
look at that body
right there. Look at that body.
Look at that body.
He's not one that sits anyway. He's always up and moving around. He's got to keep that core going. I mean, maybe you do like a He-Man plank with your toys, but he's not sitting.
And
he's a man of action.
And at the time he and Skeletor each came with half of what was called the Power Sword. So there was they didn't really know what the story was going to be. So he had one half, which, by the way, Rick, if you're mad about swords being like in different pieces, imagine it being the middle of a sword and then being cut in half long ways. That's impossible. 2, what kind of shitty, clunky sword would that be when you put it back together?
Oh my God.
Wait till we get to that movie. We got to get to what movie is that? What's
the Sword and the Sorcerer?
Yeah, with the 3-bladed ridiculousness. That's the thickest sword that we're going to see in any of these movies. So,
but I mean, it is an iconic sword, and I am somewhat disappointed that the design of the sword in this movie isn't just an exact duplicate of that sword, because I remember that sword. It's a very.
Can you please
sword.
cut and paste? I'm a little disappointed in the design of. It could be any of the things in this movie. There's other than Skeletor actually looking cooler than his character. No other character looks like their character or is in any way cool.
Yeah, Robin, get yourself a soundboard, record that audio clip of you saying that, and then just hit that button anytime you need to put that in the podcast here.
Yeah, I am very disappointed in. It's not Trapjaw, it's Blade.
And that other one, that one with the white hair. What the fuck is that thing?
His name is Karg, and I don't know.
I mean,
he's like a little lizard guy.
He's no pig boy, but he's definitely not a character I care about.
Yeah, but everybody wanted to be Pig Boy because he was.
Everybody wants to be Pig Boy.
What was that? It was a raffle character. Is that what it was? Yeah.
Somebody wanted to. We'll get the Pig Boy when we get the Pig Boy.
Yeah, I don't think we see him for a lot of this movie.
Now Rick, as the young, what is your He-Man background?
As the like I said, as the young 38, 37-year-old, however old I am, in the group, I am familiar with He-Man as a cultural touchstone. So, like, cultural osmosis from Gen X kids talking about the He-Man series, familiar with the action figures as things that I would find in a yard sale, knowing the legend of the Castle Greyskull playset and thinking, oh man, that must have been amazing, because everyone I've ever talked to has always said, oh yeah, the Castle Greyskull playset was amazing. The pinnacle of your childhood toy sets.
It's right up there with the carrier from G.I. Joe. Like,
Right. Like I watched the Netflix He-Man series that Kevin Smith put out. I've seen the She-Ra series that I think was like on Cartoon Network or something
oh
like
yeah,
that.
loved She-Ra too.
That's a whole other thing. 'Cause I remember I was starting to age out of these toys when the She-Ra show started, and I wasn't really. I was just like, I was kind of like, isn't it just Lady He-Man? And it literally was like the show was like they're like, I don't know, we have Orko, let's make a girl Orko. Like they got lazy.
Listen.
That original
Pinko.
She-Ra was lazy. The new She-Ra is great.
Yeah, the Funimation stuff, like they knew how to draw one body type for dudes and one body type for ladies, and they would just swap out costumes.
Filmation.
What did it?
You
It's
told
not-
it Funimation.
Funimation? Oh, it's Filmation. Okay.
Filmation, and it had the greatest ding, ding. It had the little. I'm gonna put it right here. Oh, what a good sound!
Yeah. Yeah, they did the Star Trek series too, right? They were like, you just see the same backgrounds going by constantly as they're walking.
He-Man could run only one way. He'd always run from left to right on the camera, and he'd like run toward camera and then stop. They'd done this. Yeah, it was a cheaply done show, but I remember liking the cartoon. I enjoyed.
Oh yeah.
Well, because it was like G.I. Joe. Every week they would bring in a new character, and then there'd be some new buff, horrible monster that I'd have to buy.
And some little lesson at the end of the episode that you can learn.
Yeah, I was really disappointed
yeah.
that Dolph Lundgren's voice wasn't like echoey the entire time he'd talk.
I mean, can you also put in your on your board of recorded things? I'm also disappointed in Dolph Lundgren's voice because I know that he ADR'd this again because the director did not like it. It's
He
not
almost got
better.
replaced.
Yeah, it's not better. I feel bad for the guy because I mean, it's not his fault. He's an actor, and they hired him.
Right.
This was his second job. Like,
Yeah, this is the same thing as Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just like, I don't know, we just can't find any Americans who are buff. Boy, when John Cena and The Rock came around, everybody's like, holy shit.
yeah.
Finally.
People who could talk. And it's not that he couldn't talk. He just had an accent that was, so thick that a lot of this movie, you're like, what? Because he's like, I mean, he sounds like, he has like, it's funny enough, he has a Stallone, like kind of, it's because it's like low. I don't know. I've heard him recently. It's not much better. It's still the same. He's still the same. I still like the guy, but
You can understand him, but the acting, like the emotion in the voice, it just is not there. There's one part in this cut where he like laughs about something, or he's like smiling about something involving because he's wondering if they can save the sorceress and if this cosmic keys, and he like has this like grin on his face, like, oh my god, he's trying something there.
Yeah, he's trying something. The other actors are. I mean, this is not well directed. Let's talk about this. Let's get down into the nitty gritty.
Oh,
Yeah.
This is directed by sexual predator Gary Goddard. It's not gonna be good, guys. This is
Bryan Singer's best friend.
Yeah, not a great thing to have on your resume either. Along with, I went and looked at his resume, and I was like, oof, his resume is a lot of shitty video game like movies, like cutscenes. This movie shows it's. I mean, we're going to talk about. There's a lot of kitsch factor. I don't want to not give my sword at the beginning of the movie because there's a lot of good stuff to get into, so that it may save my sword.
Yeah.
But the director, not a great guy.
The writer, David Odell, he is known for writing on The Muppet Show, writing for Dark Crystal, but he's also known for writing Supergirl a couple of years before this.
Oh yeah, Golden Globus probably had. Those two probably put him in a room, but like, write four different scripts. That's my Golan and Globus. They're kind of like from the Middle East, but
Sounds strangely like Christopher Lambert.
Yeah, hey, we want you to write He-Man, Masters of the Universe. Hey.
I love cannons.
Yeah. I feel like there are a handful of people that you can lay a lot of blame at the feet of. Obviously, Gary Goddard as the director, Odell as the writer, but also William Stout as the production designer, Robert Howland as the art director, and Julie Weiss as the costume director. I feel like those last three had a really easy job because you already had all of this visual storytelling from the cartoons that you could pull from. And Jonathan, you already mentioned that Skeletor has a cooler look in this movie than he did in the TV show, which I don't know if Frank Langella would have looked good with a yellow face and a blue body. But there are just other decisions that were made in this movie that just they stray so far from what I recognize from watching cartoon stuff that it was almost like, where were they going with this?
Man-at-Arms and Tila alone in their stone-colored clothes. I don't know what you would call that. It's just awful. And Man-at-Arms is such a iconic, weird look.
Oh, yeah. He's got the crazy armor.
He's got the weird thing up around his collar, around his neck. He had like a weird... we're not collar boys, so I don't really know what that's called, but it's part of armor. Fuck those guys.
But they just cover priest movies, basically.
You know, I will also blame. I'm also going to throw a little blame at Bill Conti. Yeah, that's right, at Bill Conti.
Whoa, hold on now.
Bill Conti, who was sitting next to John Williams at when it was time to pass in the homework.
Yes, because I'm going to say, Bill, you killed it with every other score you did. And then this movie has an amazing song you can draw from. Nothing. None. It's made by Mattel. Why can't you use the song? Why can't you make an homage to the song? Like a bum 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 bum. It's such a good song. And then this song comes on and the credits for Superman 3 show up and I'm like, what is this shit? Another Superman 4, excuse me. This is a Golden Globus. I was like, no, this is bad.
Yeah. And then Skeletor enters the throne room of Castle Greyskull, and you get like, oh, this is just straight up Star Wars.
Yeah. With the first, I thought they were guys, and I did my research. Those are robots.
Robots.
Because Mattel did not want He-Man killing anybody or swearing.
Yeah. See, that is another thing you can lay the blame at, and which Goddard, as horrible of a person as he is, also lays the blame at, is the fact that Mattel just kept interfering, and it wasn't until like towards the end of the movie where the He-Man toy sales were going down, and they're just like they kind of like released the reins a little bit, but it was too late. So I don't know if they were like, you can't use these villains because they might be, played a factor to some story we have laid up. I don't know why. Just like it's your movie, it's your toy line. You want to boost that toy line. Why do you need to? I don't know. Maybe they were just worried they'd screwed up. But just be like, I don't know if he kept trying to bring in more stuff from the cartoon and he was shut down or.
I mean, Mattel was extremely powerful if you think about it in 1982. So. 1985 was when this movie came out. So I think they were in their mind, they're riding high, but He-Man sales were starting to dwindle. This movie's probably 3 years too late.
It's 87, I believe.
Oh, you're right. It is 87. In my mind, everything happened in 85. So,
I mean, didn't it? Bowling for Soup knew that.
So let's talk about this movie.
That's right. This movie starts off like the cartoon with a narration. It's narrated by Peter Brooks. He's not known for a ton of things, but I wanted to say, okay, this is how the movie begins. The narrator's talking about, Castle Greyskull. It's at the center of the universe. It's where the power is held. And my mind flashes back to the opener of the cartoon. And I have the transcript for the opener of the cartoon. And I want you to highlight every time you hear something that does not appear in this movie. Okay. So the cartoon begins with, I am Adam, Prince of Eternia.
There's no Adam. Who's Adam?
Defender of the secrets of Castle Greyskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend.
Oh, Cringer. I miss Cringer.
Well, I mean, goddamn. Yeah.
They should have painted a tiger green.
Like a la Beastmasters. Get that same tiger that's going to die. Just paint him green.
Not again.
Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, by the power of Greyskull, I have the power. No one ever says by the power of Greyskull. There are mentions of the power of Greyskull, but no one.
They mentioned the power.
Right.
No, they do say the power of Greyskull one time in this cut when they're hiding behind the throne. One of them says, "The power of Greyskull will be mine."
Yeah, they skip straight to the "I have the power" stuff. But so anyway,
this movie has, unlike Bill Conti, I will not be shirking away from the Masters of the Universe original theme song when we have our theme song. Just know there is some great stuff out there.
Yeah.
And because I am someone who really loves the source material. So,
So speaking of source material, Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together, we defend Castle Greyskull from the forces of Skeletor.
And instead of Orko in this movie, we've got
Wildor.
It's all Dildo. Dildo, the Keymaster.
Yes.
He's looking for the gatekeeper.
So they start the movie at they pick up, basically they wrap Beastmaster up on that hill, and they were like, all right, cut. Now it's time to start Master of the Universe. And everybody walked away. It's the same rocky, craggy part of probably Utah.
Oh yeah, I think it's Vasquez Rocks.
Yeah, and it feels like it was even better. They don't have to go anywhere, and they shoot. There's a rebellion. That this is kind of part of the story. Don't worry about anything you know about He-Man. This has nothing to do with it. There's a rebellion going on, and He-Man. Weird that's his name. His name is He-Man. Like they don't explain it. That's not a title. His name is He-Man, and everybody's good with that. Man-at-Arms doesn't even have a name.
Right.
He's just Man-at-Arms.
Well, and he's Duncan in the cartoon.
So the new cartoon, they're smart and like, you can't just call the guy Man-at-Arms. That's insane. But yeah, they're defeated. The rebels are defeated, and we see Skeletor he has this thing with him. We don't really know what it is yet. Blorko is going to tell us about what it is here in a second. And we have Evelyn. Oh, talk about great. All the bad guys in this movie, top notch. Oh, except for Blade. But
all the bad guys are top notch.
All 2 of them. The main bads are good. Yeah. They're really awesome looking.
Yeah, Frank Langella is amazing in this role. Meg Foster as Evil Lynn, looking straight down the barrel of the camera as she's like, Castle Greyskull is ours.
And she never. There was a note in the thing just said she got a lot of parts because her eyes are weird. And so she got free visual effects from her eyes. Those are not contacts. That's her. That's
Pennsylvania native.
Yeah. Those freaking eyes, they live. Like you see her in They Live, and you're like, oh, she's gonna totally double cross Roddy Ray Piper. She apparently had to sometimes wear tinted contacts for roles just so she could take some attention away from those eyes.
Frank Lemonjello doesn't really have a nose.
Lemonjello.
I will be calling him Frank Lemonjello this entire time because that's from Fletch Lives. Get the reference. Go watch Fletch Lives. At one point, he pretends to be a man named Frank Lemonjello, and it makes and for the rest of my life, Frank Lemonjello is Frank Lemonjello.
But yeah, Meg Foster was apparently the original Cagney for Cagney and Lacey for 6 episodes, and then they were like, not feminine enough, and they replaced her with Sharon Gless.
Not feminine enough. Ouch.
I guess. And she
my
also,
wife has said that to me a bunch.
She also auditioned for Dr. Pulaski in The Next Generation. That would have been interesting.
She did not get it.
Character.
They went with a much more female person. That horrible witch woman they got.
So, and then, should we do the age thing? I wrote the ages down. I don't know if you're interested in doing the age thing for this.
Everyone is so nebulous in this movie. It's probably not worth it.
Yeah. She was 16. No, I'm just kidding. 39, if you really. But yeah, Frank Langella also. Okay, so yeah, Dracula. Apparently, if we see Cutthroat Island, he's in that. I've never seen that movie.
Oh yeah, he's in that.
He was
You've
in
never seen
Eddie.
Cutthroat Island? You should watch
No,
Cutthroat
never.
Island. Eddie's pretty
Yeah.
good too. He's pretty good in Eddie.
Apparently, during that time, he was living with Whoopi Goldberg. Those two were an item. Superman Returns as Perry White. Frost Nixon, The Americans. Speaking of complicated people we're talking about, he was supposed to have a comeback this past year with Fall of the House of Usher and got kicked out because of some sort of sexual harassment allegations, I'll say that, and got replaced by Bruce Greenwood.
I don't know. I don't know that Bruce Greenwood is the same energy as Frank Lemonjello, but okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the common thing that flies around the trivia pages is that Frank Langella took this role because his son is such a huge Skeletor fan.
Yeah, your kid's weird, man.
With a sword
Yeah.
and screaming, "I have the power."
I really hope that Frank stole some props from the movie to give to his kid. That would
that staff alone, that's a cool staff. That's the actual Skeletor staff. It's like a ram's head on him.
Yeah.
And
Oh, go ahead.
Go.
I would say his voice is better than the cartoon voice, I would say, because the cartoon was, "Hey, He-Man."
I kind of miss that though. I kind of miss the weird high pitched manic or not manicness, but it has a certain maniacal nature to it.
He sounds like Crypt Keeper, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Like telling puns.
Yeah.
This show will be the death of me. Yeah, I like what he's doing because he's doing he kind of talks like this. He's got kind of a weird. It's good. I like it. I don't mind it actually. I do miss the other one, but again, it's stupid.
Yeah, I think it's better that they put him in a black bodysuit instead of a bright blue bodysuit.
And put him in little fuzzy, because remember, all the characters have the same mold. Yep. So in the toy Skeletor, he's wearing the same fuzzy breeches that He-Man wears. Most of them wear fuzzy breeches because it's like, it's the same bottom half, and they just change the colors.
I mean, they really wanted to show how everybody on Eternia has the same workout regimen, and so their bodies are all sculpted pretty much the same, except for the women.
Yeah, I think there was a grocery store several years back, the Money supermarket chain that did a He-Man and Skeletor true to the cartoon commercial.
Oh yeah,
where they did the Dirty Dancing thing, and as fun as that was, I don't know if you could feasibly do an entire movie with actors dressed in those costumes and have it be taken any sort of seriously, even as a kid's movie.
No, they did this movie is one of the ones where you're like, the 80s were a bad time for them taking things like I've talked about this before on other podcasts, Super Mario Brothers, where they just kind of like, you're like, well, looking at it vaguely going, what? Why? Okay, I guess it has the name Super Mario Brothers on it, but I don't really understand. And it's just a disconnect with the material, and not like these guys. None of these people knew, other than Frank Lemonjello's kid being a Skeletor fan. Yeah. None of these people knew what He-Man was or gave a shit. Obviously,
yeah, because there were things that made it good.
Right.
None of those are in this movie.
Right. Kevin Smith is a nerdy kid who probably played with He-Man. So when he got to do a cartoon of, he's like, I'm gonna make it cool. And take out those parts that aren't fun, but leave in the good stuff, and it gives you that witty. There's no mirth, because I think 1987 and 85, whatever it is, doesn't matter. In the mid 80s, they thought, oh, we'll just put Blorko in here. He's small. That'll be hilarious. And it's like, no, you need to write a script that's interesting and fun. There are parts of this where Man-at-Arms laughs, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on in this movie? Like, it's not a well-written script, as we'll find out. I mean, when you have a movie where Billy Barty is the first build of this cast, you're like, I don't understand what the priorities are of this movie.
That threw me off because like you've got the blue screen where it lists Dolph Lundgren and Frank Langella, and then they do the opening narration, and then we go into the 2001 Rainbow Effect, where it starts listing off actors, and it completely skips over Dolph and Frank because they were already mentioned beforehand. So it's like, oh, so Gwildor is the first star of this movie, and then Man at Arms right after him.
I'm number 3 on the call list. I'm gonna come in there with my one eye. God, you gotta love Billy Barty. He's great. Poor guy is being put in this shit makeup, and he looks like a melted troll. And
at the very end of this cut, I'm a little worried that he's going to drown before Dolph Lundgren can like pull him out for the scene. But
and also, this movie doesn't ever show. The problem I have with the characterization of He-Man is He-Man doesn't seem super strong. He uses a gun more in this first part than I've ever seen him use a gun ever.
Yep.
He uses a giant blaster and shoots the robot men. He uses a gun in the throne room. And every once in a while, he'll lift his sword up. Like they told him, hey, Dolph, we're going to pretend like there's shots fired at you. So every time you lift your sword, we'll have to have a shot, hit it, and then bounce off. But it's real after the fact. It's not, hey, guess what? Dolph did his own stunts in that throne room scene, in case you're wondering. It was, there's not much going on.
No.
If this will probably be the last time we compare it to the cartoon, but not really. But I will say we really missed out on seeing Dolph's version of Prince Adam, because I would have loved him putting on a slightly more effeminate voice, dressed all in pink, just being
pink and
out
purple.
there.
They could have, like, we're going to talk about real world stuff when we get into the later cuts, but like they could have done like we need to dress more like the locals and have him go into a Caldor or something like that and come out with like the pink polo.
Well, he's
and be like, I don't like this. Rip it off.
If he's the leader of the resistance, why isn't he wearing I would have been okay with him wearing the same clothes as Man at Arms and Tila, like a uniform. Yeah. And he's Prince Adam, who's leading this revolt. He doesn't get to become He-Man until he has the power of Greyskull. And I would have been, whereas he's always He-Man, and then he gets the power of Greyskull, and I'm like, but he's the same. The entire point is he always changes into He-Man. He-Man is not his default form.
Well, okay, that explains why Skeletor needs to capture and kill He-Man, because he cannot truly take on the power of Greyskull until He-Man is dead. But that's going to be completely thrown out the window in Cut 6 when we gets his like gold Power Ranger power up,
which is awesome.
I mean, it looks spectacular,
but it defeats the purpose of when you become He-Man, you change into He-Man, or you get whatever powers. It's the same thing happens in the Kevin Smith cartoon when Skeletor gets the power of Greyskull. He becomes this giant, like, godlike creature. And I like that. This movie, they're like, well, no, he has to be He-Man the entire time. Okay. And he's not super strong. Like, he doesn't lift up Blorgo from the water with one hand. He literally just kind of picks him up the way anybody would pick up a poor little person stuck in a rubber suit out of water, just kind of dragging him out. So I was expecting more. I guess I was expecting more. Let's just say that. I was expecting more from He-Man in these first scenes, because the first scenes, this is where the budget is. The budget is in Eternia. I wanted He-Man to I wanted him to be they're in this huge set. I wanted him running around with his sword, knocking robot men into that chasm on the left and the right. I wanted instead
the Flash Gordon football scene.
Right. They had to knock down a wall in a soundstage to combine two soundstages together to build this throne room. Like, explore the space.
I need you to add the Flash Gordon sound for the do. I need the football sounds, but over him just standing cowering behind a throne, like going pew pew. He's like do. This is the difference with Bill Conti phoning it in and Queen. This is the difference. This is what you get. I'm sorry, Bill. I'm sorry I'm shitting on you so much. It's just you could have done better.
I mean,
so basically,
fly now. He can rest in his laurels.
So we kind of skipped around a little bit. They have this fight, and then the first fight is they're in the woods and they meet woods. They're in the, the whatever you want to call that, the rocks.
Yeah.
And they meet Blorgo, and Blorgo takes him to his house, which seems to be right there. And then we find out Blorgo's a boomer because he's like, you should not have to lock my doors, but someday it's going to be like that again. You're like, all right, calm down.
Make Eternia great again. I'm just saying.
Yeah. There's a lot of free radicals, and I don't like these kind of people. So anyway,
I liked Billy Barty better when he appeared in 1989's UHF as Noodles the cameraman. He's a lot more agreeable, if that can be believed.
So they go into his house. He explains the cosmic key, which is this. How do you guys describe it?
It's some sort of Japanese shit. I don't know.
It's like a tuning fork carousel with keys on it.
Yeah. It's the most unique key in the universe. The tones it generates can open a doorway to anywhere. One simply computes the gravitonic tones for a specific destination, activate the energizer, and you go anywhere.
I love that he says this, and then He-Man's like, "Could you get us in the throne room?" And so he's like, "No, I can't do that right now because."
But I have a hallway.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh, by the way, I have a secret door that goes to the throne room. Why'd you fucking tell us about that first?
Castle Greyskull, the most secure and important castle on the entire planet of Eternia, in the center of the universe, and Gwildor just has
Eternia, not Eternitia.
Whatever. The fact that
young.
It's like Gwildor has a backdoor into Fort Knox, and nobody cares.
So they go into the basement of Greyskull. Great. And they're skulking around. I don't remember. And because they're trying to get the sorceress. The sorceress is her own thing. In this movie, she's a weazened old woman dressed like a bird, or maybe a crystal bird. That's close.
It's the bird costume.
That's close. It's close, but it's not.
I don't know.
But she doesn't have like the wing cape.
Yeah.
That's the cool part.
Yeah. Yeah. The real sorceress, my sorceress.
Yeah,
not my sorceress.
Not my sorceress.
Not my sorceress.
She's just this old lady. Whereas in the show, she was a young, relatively young, like eternal lady, mystical lady that's dressed kind of like a bird. No reason why. By the way, they never talk about why she's dressed like a bird in the original cartoon. She is.
Does she turn into a bird? Does she have a bird?
No. There's a lot of bird motif because I remember He-Man had a ship that was an eagle with wings. It was like a ship that he flew in. So it's like a lot. Here's something crazy. Castle Greyskull did not come with the sorceress. Sorceress sold separately.
Really?
Yeah, and that crazy.
Who's protecting
That is crazy. They should have packaged those things together.
Yeah, she literally lives there. It's her house. It's like the Barbie dream house.
Did they not package the sorceress in with Greyskull because the boys wouldn't want to buy it because it comes with a girl character?
Yeah, basically, I assume.
Good. Speaking of girl characters, I wanted to note real quick. So Meg Foster enters the throne room, interrupting He-Man trying to save the sorceress, and she's wearing this big metal chest plate thing. Apparently, it was so heavy that it gave Meg Foster abdominal bruising, and she could not sit down.
Oh my god. Hey, Rick, Meg Foster's eyes are up here, okay? Her really cool eyes are up here, okay?
Yes, not if you're a paramedic trying to treat her injuries from just wearing the costume. It was 45 pounds.
Rick, I think it's cute that you think there was a paramedic on set for a Golden Globus movie.
Yeah, the paramedic on set was the guy handing out cigarettes. It was the 80s after all.
It's funny, they do get in there and they talk to the sorceress and everything, and then all of a sudden Evil Lynn comes with all the guards as if they got caught on a lunch break. Like, whoa! We left her alone for 1 minute.
Roll out the battle droids.
So taking it all the way to the front of the movie, the beginning of the movie, the front. I have to ask, if you see the Sphinx and it stinks, what happens when you see the Canon Group logo?
Well, Canon, yeah. Oh my god. Well, for me, I was always like, hell yeah, because that means either Revenge of the Ninja or there. So many
Superman
movies
4.
of my youth. So many movies of my youth are Canon shit movies. It may be. I'm like, oh, maybe Chuck Norris is going to show up. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh man, Chuck Norris showed up in this movie.
Chuck Norris could have been He-Man.
with a mustache.
Yeah, and a rug.
Just
That poor-
just
that-
the hairiest He-Man you've ever seen.
oh yeah, that would have been weird, wouldn't it? He would have been extremely furry on the chest. It like this little medallion would like have hair around it on his chest. I will give it props that Dolph Lundgren as He-Man looks cool. It's a cool costume. I know they're like, let's try to make a modern take on it. They shouldn't have. They should have kept it. Like, it doesn't even have the same thing on the front. Like the same, like, weird little X that was on the front. It is
Maybe
shaped
they
like
want to
an
make
X.
any sort of political statement.
I guess. Yeah, and I just, again, a shame. It's a shame, and I wish they'd made other choices for these
I like
characters.
the cape. Did he have a cape in the cartoon? I don't know.
No, of course not. No.
No,
He's
I
running.
don't think-
He's a, look. I think Sword Boys needs to go on record that capes are a bad idea.
They do get in the way.
Let's look at some of the great cape fights. Darth Vader dies.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got. I'm sure
With a
as we
sword?
go
Okay.
along. As we go along, it is a sword. It's a laser sword. As we go along, what are some of the we need to be on the lookout for when capes impede swording?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they all wear capes in Three Musketeers until they don't.
I mean, is it
They
a,
wear those. It's not
is
a
it a-
cape. It's more of a.
it's not a cape, it's a tunic. Because it's both sides.
But they all at one point they're wearing actual capes with hoods. But they don't.
That's right,
fight,
when they sneak in. Yeah.
They don't always fight in them. They're always kind of like the first thing they do is they
throw them
throw them off.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Sword Boy. Agree that the Three Musketeers is cape appropriate, whereas this I don't know if it is yet.
Yeah. If
We haven't gotten a sword fight yet. Cut one has 0 sword fights.
The point of a cape is you drop it before the sword fight. It's meant to be a piece of an article of clothing that you discard in order to do the important thing.
It is almost like the move of putting your hand up and putting your sword out and being like on guard. It is the pre-on guard. It is the I am now ready to. Of course, we're going to resist. Give us a second. And you flip off your cape and you're like, I am now ready to resist you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's proper. The forms of etiquette must always be followed, and right now He-Man is not following that because his cape cannot. I don't know if it can come off.
It seems
Right.
pretty well attached to his shoulder pads.
Let's
He's got, like,
let's
buttons on
watch
his
as
shoulder pads.
other cuts go on. Does he continue to have the cape, or does he take off the cape?
Right.
Because at a certain point they're walking through Burbank, so I'm just wondering: is he going to keep the cape? Is he going to? I don't actually remember if he changes into like regular human clothes. I don't remember.
That's right. They do go to the land of eternal night. I wonder if they're going to run into
Yeah.
Queen Gedrin.
Again, if I'm still obsessed with the idea that He-Man should have disguised himself as Prince Adam once he got to Earth. Like you say, he walked into a Caldor's exchange. I'd be so happy if he walked into it was like New York City and he walked into Stonewall and he's like, I'm gonna need your pink vest and your biker shorts.
Yeah, it would be awesome, and him walking around with the sword strapped to his back.
Yeah.
It'd be fun, but this movie doesn't understand fun or funny. So, okay.
Skeletor has a bit of a cape, a robe.
Oh, he does. Let's see if let's wait to the final fight. Well, we know the final fight is going to be done for $14.17. So
Yes.
I'll be interested to see if the cape remains when he becomes Super Skeletor.
Skeletor would be a terrible upstairs neighbor, by the way, because when he comes in, it's just like bang the staff every time, bang, bang, bang. It's like, oh God, keep it down, Skeletor.
Skeletor is rude in many ways. That is one of the ways. You know what? He also doesn't pay his rent on time. What an asshole.
I'd love to know what those runes mean on that throne. I tried Googling it really quick, and Google was like, "Come on."
Yeah, Google's like, it's not like Arabesh.
There's no nerd that really just translated all that.
I created a full language from stills from the movie of Masters of the Universe.
Yeah. See if you can get a phone number for William Stout and say, hey, Bill, what's up with that throne? And he's like, well, you talking about 1987? I don't know.
It's always weird too when the premise of the movie is Castle Grayskull stands on the border of light and dark in the balance. You don't really mean balance. You mean you want the good guys to be in control. That's not balance.
No.
As Star Wars has taught us, the good being in control is just as bad as the bad being in control. So I feel like the sorceress has her thumb on the scale. of what is balanced and what isn't.
And the whole thing where the dark can embrace the light, but it can never eclipse it. Actually,
Like, I'm pretty
what
sure
eclipse
that's the
is?
definition of what an eclipse
if
is.
last week has taught us anything,
You
it's
mean 3
that you
months
can
ago?
eclipse light. Oh yeah, 3 months ago, whenever the hell. The
when we were in
eclipse happened.
Mexico last week, right? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit of a kind of leaning on a naughty feel to the scene where Skeletor seems to be draining the life force from the sorceress, and they both look like they're in some ecstasy there.
Yeah, he sucked one day of her life away,
Yeah.
and he wants her to be honest about it.
So my next note here is: do people have to come out to the desert to see Skeletor's holosphere like it's Burning Man?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I love about the Hollow
Coachella.
Sphere is that like it's multifaceted. Like you've got straight on Skeletor, and then like behind it is like a 3/4 body Skeletor, and then there's like another Skeletor. Like no matter where you're standing, there is a Skeletor looking towards you.
Well, it's really what it is. It's an Olin Mills portrait of you in the 80s. It's like your face, and then there's a shadow of you in like a position. If you've ever seen an Olin Mills photo of you,
I didn't know that's what those were called, but that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, I got to go outside. Skeletor's talking. Got to go look at the giant Olin Mills portrait out here. Let's see what he says. Oh, he's looking right at me. Oh, my God.
What do you think Skeletor looks like under that robe, though? I mean,
Oh, I hope. Well,
what's that body look like?
in the
Is it all
cartoon,
bones?
he's buff.
Yeah.
Just his head is skeleton. But in this, I assume he's all bone, if you know what I mean.
Well,
Oh yeah.
I think there was an interview that Meg Foster did about her role as Evelyn and how she starts off this movie as a woman who is like romantically devoted to Skeletor, and then by the end she's going to become like a scorned woman because she realizes that he really doesn't care about her. It's a very Harley Quinn Joker situation. But
Yeah.
if anyone would know what he looks like underneath that cape, she would.
Do you want to see the bones, Evelyn?
You want to roll the bones?
Am I going to get in those ribs, or are you going to get in mine?
Oh, by the way, sorry about your ribs. Sorry you're bruised. I see that you're bruised all over your ribs.
I
We
think
haven't seen any of the other. We'll get to other cuts for other classic characters from the menagerie of Skeletor's henchmen.
Yeah.
We have to wait.
The one thing I really will give the writer of this movie, for whose name I keep forgetting, because like what kind of name is David Odell anyway?
Seriously.
Sorry, David Odell stands. But the one line that he gave Skeletor that I really appreciated is when he says, "He-Man lives and possesses that key. I must possess all, or I possess nothing." And I feel like that is a very good characterization for who Skeletor is. Like, all you need to know about Skeletor is that one line.
All or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see it's a song by O-Town as well. So,
I mean, it's
be a fan.
one. Is that a music reference? Two. I'm looking at his
I'm going to
writing.
take you to O-Town, Evelyn.
Here we go. Have you ever been to the Bone Zone?
Are you the bone collector?
Oh my God. I looked at his thing, and it's like 1980s, tons of stuff, 1993 Muppets, and then nothing for 30 years, and then the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. I'm sure he's aged very well. I'm sure doing no writing for 30 years is going to be top notch when it comes out. I'm very excited to see it.
If I remember right, Dark Crystal Age of Resistance was not terrible.
Mhm.
It had some good bits to it.
But like they love the Skeksis, another creature going to the Bone Zone. This is bony, gross. I know the Skeksis, I don't even think are in Age of Resistance, whatever.
I never
'Cause it
saw
hasn't-
it, but I never was a big Dark Crystal
Honestly,
guy.
if you are a big Dark Crystal person, you've obviously already seen Age of Resistance. But as someone who saw Dark Crystal and then like checked out Age of Resistance out of curiosity, it was not bad. Not bad.
What a glowing review on I'm sure this episode of Masters of the Universe where they're like, oh, I wonder what they think about Muppets and the Dark Crystal. They're actually not Muppets in that movie. If you look there, okay, shut up, nerd. Tim Henson did it. They're Muppets. I know all Muppets don't look alike, but if you stick your hand up inside of it, it's a Muppet.
Yeah, they all feel the same on the inside.
What's
happening?
Wow, that Robin, you've always got to take things for a turn, don't you?
Sorry.
I wish I had a cosmic key so that I could portal my way out of that reference.
Just make sure the cosmic key has a flared base for safety.
You don't want to go too far in with that key.
It's a 1 in a million shot when I talk to the doctor. How'd that get up there? I sat on the cosmic key.
Listen, he had to reach something on a high shelf, and he slipped on the step stool and just fell right down.
Yep. And then He-Man's junk fell in my mouth. I don't know what happened. This, just so you know, Sword Boys is not rated PG like this movie. Yeah. This movie could almost be rated G.
All right. Speaking of Skeletor and his mouth region, is it weird that Skeletor has lips? Because it feels weird that Skeletor has lips.
Is it weird that you can see Frank Lemonjello huffing and puffing when his nose cavity moves up and back and forth? In one scene, I was watching it because I'm like, they obviously can't do the Red Skull stuff of green screening the nose out.
Right.
So it's like his nose is behind a thing. And when he breathes, it's like, it's all, everyone knows, Rick, that skeletons have lips. Everyone knows this.
He'd have a hard time talking without lips. I was just like,
hey, you're gonna die.
That's where this voice comes from. Because remember the cartoon, he would laugh and he would like go, I'm sure I'm thinking of Fire Marshal Bill from Fire Marshal. Talk about an old reference. But yeah, because Fire Marshal Bill, I believe, had his lips burned off. So yeah, there's he has lips. Oh boy, does he? Does he, Rick? Rick, my lips are up here. Stop looking at where the cosmic key is being stored at the moment.
All right. Well, I mean, he does have a gigantic holster on his belt that
That's not a holster, Rick.
Why is it on the outside of his leg then?
Oh, it's on the outside of my leg. It's prolapsed. Someone call a doctor. Evelyn, I know you're at the doctor right now for your rib cage. I think this is my new favorite character, other than it's like sexually deviant Skeletor is kind of the best. He goes into the pantheon of great characters.
Right up there with Max.
and Clompy. Well, we haven't seen a Clompy yet. I don't know if we're gonna get a Clompy in this movie.
I don't think there are any horses in this movie.
Golden Globus are a bunch of racist.
I would have played Cringer if I could have. I had that part nailed down. I was struggling playing the battle cap. You know, I'm not that fierce.
No, that's what Stabby is, the fierce one. But he had to similar litigation assailed him as Gary Goddard.
Oh, he's also a friend of Bryan Singer.
Yeah.
You know, I'm into sex things, but I don't like Bryan Singer. I'll tell you that right now.
Stabby was best left back in the Three Musketeers.
That's my nickname, Stabby. Stabator.
Speaking of leaving things behind, obviously He-Man and his allies.
In my behind.
He-Man and his allies go through a portal to escape the throne room of Castle Greyskull, and the sorceress says
it's a space butthole.
They have until moonrise to come back and save her.
Does that mean tonight, or does that mean what does that mean?
No idea.
She said when the moon is full, and I was like, do they mean like a few days? Like it's like there's the moon is rise. I don't understand. Let's just go with I don't understand. Oh, and the guy who wrote it, it's like this guy's really about things aligning. Remember the Dark Crystal? The three suns have to align to do the shit with the Dark Crystal. So we have an unknown amount of time. We don't know how long we have. It's same as Red Sonja. It's like you only have like maybe a day and a half in Red Sonja. They just keep stopping and sleeping and trying to have sex with each other. You're like, get there.
I suppose the portal doesn't go through time. Like the same time on Earth and Eternia is happening at the same time.
Yeah, because like Earth is, out further from the center of the universe, where Eternia is in the middle of the universe. So like, how does time work with how fast planets are moving? I mean, we could get real, timey-wimey with this, but
if there's a bright center of the universe, Eternia is the middle of it. And Earth is the farthest from.
Yeah, that quote reminded me of what she continues on. She says, I can withstand until moonrise, until the great eye opens on the universe.
Let me tell you about the great eye.
I mean, there's
BTW. It's not what you think it is.
The great brown eye.
Yes.
God, it's Skeletor. And Evelyn's just over there like, all he thinks about are assholes. What is wrong with that guy? He's the worst.
I'm surrounded by assholes.
We'll find out about that later. There are a couple of hairy ones going to show up. So they go through the space butthole and they are we don't know where they are. They're on a set.
I think this is Malibu Creek State Park.
Okay.
In Calabasas, California.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is it seriously? Like they didn't even build a set? That's not a set.
They're just in a state park.
Oh, cool.
And they rented a cow. But we don't find out about the cow until next cut.
There's a cow?
I'm jumping the gun on that one.
I can play the cow.
Yeah, I think I'm more concerned. I'm more concerned in this scene with the fact that before they started rolling, they put Billy Barty in his, plastic death mask and like put him face down in the water, and like that's just him face down in the water. I don't think there's a breathing tube there.
You don't think there's a stuntman?
No, I'm pretty sure that's just him. They said, all right, hold your breath. We're going to throw you in. Hopefully Dolph can get you out quick enough.
Close that one good eye. You don't want to get any muck in it. And that's when we get almost the Orko style ending to our cut, and also an episode of He-Man where it's like, oh Blorko, you rapscallion, because Man at Arms does that kind of like. By the way, the guy playing. I want to talk about the guy playing Man at Arms.
John Cyphers.
I've seen him in other stuff. He is so whatever the hell he is in this movie, and it's great. And I don't know what he's doing this like, I'm incredibly genuine. I'm going to play this as completely normal as possible. Whereas Tila seems to like wink at the camera, like she's like, she's happy, she's sad, she kind of understands the bullshit of it. Whereas he's kind of like, no, everything's exactly as I see it.
Mm-hmm. I like how Tila, where is that? She gets mad at Gwildor,
yes,
and treats him like he's Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
for making
pretty much. Yeah, she's got a bit of a temper on her.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Tila, the actress who plays Tila.
Yes,
yeah, she's Vicky, the Western flight attendant from Commando, and Sarah Hallenbeck from The Last Boy Scout.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Virginia Slim from Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
She was also the wife in The Dark Half. You ever seen that movie? She was, speaking of TNG could-have, should-haves, maybe, I don't know, she was in the running to play Janeway on Voyager.
Oh, nice.
Apparently. Yeah. She came from being a dancer on Solid Gold. Who doesn't remember Solid Gold?
Well, I was just talking about Solid Gold yesterday because I was on a flight 2 days ago, and one of the stewardesses looked like Madam, and I didn't take a picture of her because I thought it'd be mean. But if you know who Madam is,
oh man, I can't remember. I remember
Madam's a puppet. Okay, this is going to tie everything together. Madam's a puppet.
Oh right,
she's a puppet with a big chin and a weird nose, and she talks kind of like Skeletor. She's kind of like, "Hey, up there." She's like this sassy old lady.
But Solid Gold wasn't in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, or am I getting my
nope? This was confused. Look, Solid Gold was a weird time where go watch Madam. And she's on Hollywood Squares. She used to be at the Macy's Day Parade, and she's not just a puppet. It's a dude with her. Like it's like who's the guy that does the racist puppets?
Jeff Dunham.
He basically it's like think of it as gay Jeff Dunham, because this guy was definitely a confirmed bachelor, but he created this madam character. It was almost drag, but it was a puppet.
Yeah, it's drag without having to be good at makeup.
The puppet said the stuff that, oh, madam.
Yes.
It's amazing. I mean, really funny stuff. You should go watch Madam. If you watch Solid Gold, you know who Madam is.
All right. I want to cut back to Chelsea Field real quick as Tila, because I was scrolling down her IMDb page and she is married to Scott Bakula.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Still?
Yeah. They are still married. Yay. Captain Archer himself. So it's funny that Chelsea Field had her own experience jumping through a portal, considering that she's married to Dr. Sam Beckett.
Tila,
that's true.
Having a life, spending a life that was not her own, trying to right what once went wrong, hoping each butthole will be the butthole home.
To Eternia. Yeah, her latest role is playing Scott's wife in NCIS New Orleans. Yep. I saw a preview of that once when that first came out, and I was like, ooh, Scott Bakula doing that accent, huh? Okay. All right.
It's very it's very X-Men 97. It's very trying to do the Gambit voice.
I'm just trying to solve crimes, Cher.
You sound more like I'm just a country chicken or whatever it is from drama.
Did a little foghorn leghorn there.
It is a little foghorn leghorn.
Right.
So this ends this cut. This cut ends with them basically looking around. There is no cow. I guess spoilers for next cut. There will be a cow.
Yep.
No sword. No sword has touched another sword yet. So this is not currently a sword movie.
Yep.
So,
but there is a sword themed henchman that will be appearing in cut 2 that we've already mentioned a couple of times.
He may be the first sword boy. He is all swords. His hat is swords. He's swords.
Yeah.
Man at swords.
He's the most sword boy.
Does Man at Arms have swords on his back, or are those like, I can't remember if those are like an axe. I haven't watched this movie. I'm only watching the cuts. I haven't rewatched it before we were doing our cuts. I'm only watching it to do notes on. So I don't remember Man at Arms I know Man at Arms had in the toy, he had a like a mace.
Mace, yeah.
But I don't know if he has a couple of maces. So we'll find out.
Yeah, I don't think he has swords.
He's
got blasters on him, at least in the cartoon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is a sword on his back. Just based on what I'm seeing as I scrub through the cut back and forth, trying to figure it out. But
just like a man at arms bringing a sword to a laser gun fight.
When you're a man at arms, you need to have multiple arms for the fights that you go into. Always be prepared. That's the great thing about man at arms.
It's not actually a sword. It's just sticks of different widths, if you get my meaning.
Oh, shut up, Skeletor. You're so sexy. Stop being so sexy. Weird.
I think my last note, I'm just scrolling through the different reactions I had while watching this movie. And just Evelyn really screwed the pooch here. Like, number one, apparently she found Gwildor, knocked on his door, was just like, hey, I hear you got keys. Give me that key. And she got the key for Skeletor, but she didn't realize that he also had another key just sitting there.
He had a prototype.
Yeah, yes. Or, she didn't like kill him or destroy all the blueprints for the key and be like, we must have the only key, because it's a big deal that all of a sudden they have a key too.
But they were all deceived, for another key was made, forged in secret from the fires of Mount Doom.
The other thing is, like, Skeletor and Evelyn, they're all looking for Gwildor. Where could he be? I don't know. You try his house yet? Evelyn, you already visited there.
Honestly, they had Gwildor in custody. He was in the net bag being carried back to Castle Greyskull. If they wanted him dead, the robots just could have killed him right there and dragged his corpse back to Castle Greyskull. But, kid movie.
Luckily, they couldn't.
My Gwildor sounds a little bit like Skeletor, but it's close.
Luckily, they couldn't find the key. I had it hidden in a pouch. Let's say a pouch. The kind of Skeletor knows what I'm talking about. I have a pouch.
It's distressing because the key is as big as he is.
Well, yeah, I had to do some calisthenics.
It's not the size of the key that counts.
Nope. Sometimes the key's inside you the whole time, literally.
Yeah, unfortunately, Gwildor does not have the key in his possession at the end of this cut because he drops it as He-Man swoops him up to leap through the portal, and then the grappling hook that Gwildor has comes through the portal, grabs the key, and yanks it after.
Yeah.
Honestly, you don't want to just yank one of those keys. You want to be moving it around carefully.
Yeah, you got to pull. Yeah, you kind of go in a circular motion. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
So does this end this cut?
Yeah. The He-Man and his allies, they are stranded on a different planet. The key is currently somewhere. They'll have to find it. So listeners, come back because next time, He-Man and his allies find themselves transported to a strange and unfamiliar place teeming with unknown life forms, cowboy-themed fast food stands, and TV actresses. Julie Winston and her boyfriend Kevin, two unsuspecting teenagers, stumble upon Gwildor's cosmic key and unwittingly alert Skeletor's forces to their location. With their sights set on finding He-Man, Skeletor's mercenaries turn the high school's around-the-world fantasy dance into a nightmare for a terrified Julie. The Eternians invade Los Angeles in Cut 2 of Masters of the Universe.
Someone tell those kids to wash that thing thoroughly when they find it. Trust me on that one.
It's so distressing how Kevin finds that thing, picks it up, and immediately starts fingering it all over. It's like,
and then he sniffs it. Well, luckily it was in bog water, so it's fine now. Yes, yes. See you next time. Hey,
wow.
Before we go, what original character from Masters of the Universe do you think you are?
Jeez.
And that's hard. I mean, I'm definitely Beast Man or whatever. What's the furriest? The one that came with actual fur on it, I believe, is probably me. Some sort of Beast Man. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'm more of an Orko. I mean, I show up. I'm sometimes funny. I'm sometimes annoying.
Okay.
And I'm magic.
And I've never seen your legs.
Yes, it's true.
What about you, Rick? Rick's having to look it up. Looks like
yeah.
I
had to look it up. Jonathan, I'm a little surprised you didn't say that you were more like Fisto with all of the references that you made.
Oh, by the way, my kids have all my toys from when I was a little kid. Fisto every once in a while shows up because he's in a bucket. He has a giant metal fist, and you're just like, bravo, Mattel, for coming up with that.
My two favorites are Fisto and Ram Man.
Oh, God,
Great
Ram Man,
names.
yes. But wasn't there like a tri-face? Like he'd switch and he'd have like He-Man's face, but
He was called Tri-Eyes or something. He had 3 eyes.
Yeah.
I had him because his head turned, and there was also a He-Man that was blue, and he was like a replicated fake He-Man.
Right. How about like Merman? What's Merman's podcast like?
As annoying as this one. Let's put it that way.
Gosh. I think I'm most like Mecha Neck because I'm constantly like, I always have to like try and crack my neck and stretch it out and stuff like that.
Neck.
So, yeah. Of the list of characters that I'm looking at, I'm like, oh yeah, he's a toy with an extendable neck. Yeah, I'll say that guy.
Sure. All right. Well, so we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. And if you haven't, please sign up for our Patreon, because at this point, someone do some math. What are we talking about? We've definitely already talked about Highlander 2. Mm-hmm. We've definitely already talked about The Man in the Iron Mask.
Mm-hmm.
And we've definitely already talked about Rob Roy.
Yep. So, anybody who is okay, so join our Patreon because the Patreon post that dropped last week is our TCB discussion about like what we're going to watch next, and we've already had one listener do a special request for a TCB. So the one that comes out next week will most likely be that one.
Yeah, we can't say it now because I don't know. Actually, we can't say it now because we it's on the Patreon. That's the whole point. Go to patreon.com/swordboys, not the word slash, the actual slash that they use for the internet.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/swordboys. Find us at swordboys.biz. That's got all of our links. That's got all of our links to Rick does a ton of social media. Go find that, and you can follow us on there, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere.
We are not an Australian gang. We just
We
like
are
talking
not an
about
Australian
swords.
gang. We always thought, yes.
Yes, and my girlfriend is going to be giving us a movie, but she keeps volunteering movies that have no swords.
She doesn't understand the premise
I know.
of the show. No, we can't do Barefoot in the Park.
Yeah. Although she wants us to do Fortress, but not the Christopher Lambert one.
I know which one
Sorta
you mean.
qualified, but-
The Australian one.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Australia, yeah. But again, no swords. Lots of spears.
All right, see you all in 2 weeks. Clang, clang.
Bling bang!
Ying clang!
I have the power!
We have the power.